All right, so you want to make money trading Solana meme coins, but you don't really know where to start, or you've been fed a ton of bad advice. Well, welcome to my channel where I'm going to actually teach you the proper ways in which you can actually be successful in trading these meme coins. The first lesson of today's video is going to be that you probably should leave every one of these Telegram groups that you're in with people that have more than 30 to 50K followers in that group, because one thing that I know that you guys don't know and that the people owning these channels won't tell you is that a lot of them are getting allocations of the token supply of the tokens that they're actually promoting, which incentivizes them to shill it very hard to you all while their pockets get, filled up with a lot of your money, and then they can dump it whenever they want and you are left holding the bag. You should run for the hills from these groups even quicker if that person is shilling more than 5 to 10 tokens in a particular day. There are some of these channels out there, especially on Telegram, where the people have good intentions behind the channels and they want you to succeed, much like I do on my YouTube channel. But the majority of cases, greed gets to these people and they just simply can't help themselves. And they're going to end up taking one of these deals and they're going to show you a bad token with a bad team that has malicious intent, and you are going to be victimized in those scenarios. Another thing that you really should keep in mind is that you should never be paying to join one of these groups. I don't care what the incentives are. I don't care what they are telling you you will get out of the group. It is never going to be worth it, because there are people like me who have free channels and they actually care about your well-being and they will actually steer you in the right direction and not take advantage of you. So in every scenario, make sure that you are actually joining groups that are free, where you can actually learn something from them, instead of just, being a part of the machine and trying to catch on to other people's ideas. Now, moving on. What I talked about in my last video, and I wanted to really drill it into your heads, is that you need to understand what has previously worked for particular meme coins if you want to have success trading meme coins in the future. If you have no clue what has worked in the past, then this video is going to be for you. But just as a general guideline, there are a lot of things in the meme coin space that have kind of lasting themes. And the quicker that you can start to pick up on those themes, the quicker that you will be able to actually spot them in new tokens that are launching and get in on them early and actually capitalize on those opportunities when they arise. The meme coin space evolves at a rapid pace and things change constantly, but some things stay identically the same. And that is what I really want to drill into you in this video. And I'm going to show you now a couple examples of what I mean by that. All right, so if you watched my last video, you know that I talked about Housecoin, and I used this as an example of the types of tokens that I like to look for, right? Tokens that have a little bit of history, they have a very, very strong community, and a narrative that's highly memeable. In this case, Housecoin uses this phrase, basically, hot air rises, to describe the price of the token consistently going up while also relating it to the name of the token, Fartcoin, right? Farts, hot air rises, right? It's completely ridiculous and stupid, but it makes you chuckle, right? At the end of the day, these are the types of coins that I like to look for. And again, how I make a lot of my money in the meme coin space is by buying these tokens when everybody else gives up on them and thinks that it's over and it looks really, really bad for them, right? I like to buy the dips on these proven tokens, but I'm going to show you a token now that is more recent that I think actually follows this same type of blueprint. And I just want to show you guys that, this is how you can really start to spot the right types of tokens. Now, the next token I'm going to show you guys isn't identical to Fartcoin, right? But like I said, it shares the same type of viral principles that Fartcoin does, in the fact that there's a slogan behind it. There's something that kind of everybody can get behind, and it's also relating to the actual name of the token. And it makes it so that it kind of makes sense, even though they're meme coins, why people would buy it. And it's this coin right here, Housecoin. Now, keep in mind, nothing in my channel is financial advice. You should not be buying this token specifically, especially all the way up here. I am just using this for an example to actually teach you guys how you can actually spot the right narratives and buy the right tokens in the meme coin space. This token is a great example of the types of tokens that I personally would like to, get in on. I consider this coin to be pretty similar to Fartcoin in the sense that it almost has a cult-like following behind it, right? There's a bunch of people who like to repeat their slogan over and over, and I'm going to show you the slogan here in a second. But basically, what I want you to really take away from this part of the video is that you need to be really positioning yourself in front of the crowds And you really need to be thinking long term when it comes to meme coins. And like I said in my last videos, the first questions that you should be asking yourselves are, do these coins have the actual potential to last for a long period of time? And I think that this Housecoin is a decent example of one that might. Okay, so the slogan for Housecoin and kind of the whole cult following behind it is that their goal is to flip the housing market. Okay, and they want to do it by buying the Housecoin, right? And this is relevant to the meme coin space and the financial markets in a number of ways. But really, this is something that a lot of people can get behind because of the 2008 financial crisis, okay? So that is just kind of the first step to this puzzle, okay? And this is what you guys really need to start thinking about when it comes to the meme coin space. Honestly, what I like to say is the more retarded the coin, the better in most cases. But what you really need is a cult-like community behind the coin that is doing things like this coin is doing so that they can really get the viral exposure needed to actually, get to prices like this coin is right here. So think about Fartcoin for a second, right? With their hot air rises, vapor to value, tokenizing farts with the help of bots, like it's all really fucking retarded, right? Housecoin is showing signs of the exact same types of principles already, okay? And this is how you really need to spot meme coins. You need to think on a long-term scale, right? There's so many tokens that launch on a daily basis. You need to start developing an eye for what can actually last for a long period of time. Okay, so now I'm going to stop talking about the relevancy between Fartcoin and Housecoin, but I really just wanted to use that as an example of, the types of things that you really need to look out for. Now we are going to compare that to some of the newer launches that are taking place right now, and I'm going to show you guys the differences between, these types of narratives and how you can really start to develop what might work and what is complete junk that you should never touch. Okay, so as I've been recording this video, there has been a token in the past hour that has gone from 0 to 20 million. And as you can see, every one of my wallet trackers is aping into this token. And, people are making a fuck ton of money on this token as we speak. We are going to break down this token here in just a second. But before we do, we are going to talk about another example that I wanted to mention beforehand. All right, so if you've never heard of Peanut the squirrel, the basic TLDR of Peanut and why it went so viral in the meme coin space is because it was a squirrel that was a pet of somebody who lived in New York, and it was euthanized by the US government basically for not being legal in the state of New York, okay? And this narrative absolutely went parabolic up to $2 billion market cap, and it was listed on Coinbase and a bunch of other very popular exchanges. But basically the TLDR of Peanut is that this was national news basically, and this sparked a very big debate online, and hence the meme coin took off because of the virality of how much people were talking about the squirrel, and a whole narrative formed around the squirrel basically saying that, the government should keep their hands off of our stuff and leave us the fuck alone. That's basically the TLDR of this. And I like to relate Peanut to Harambe. You've probably heard of Harambe, which is one of the biggest narratives really ever, where it was a gorilla that was killed by the Cincinnati Zoo, okay? And basically what I want you guys to relate here is that, again, there are different segments of the market, and these types of narratives where, an animal is killed or, something along those lines are really where you can get some serious value because, a lot of people can get behind them, right? Similar to Fartcoin, similar to Housecoin. It is almost a cult phenomenon where people want to be involved with this type of movement, right? Okay, and the reason why we talked about Peanut and Harambe is because I want to relate it to a newer token that launched just recently that I think shares some similar principles. And again, all of this is to show you guys how to really spot potential narratives and, potentially get in on these tokens early before the rest of the crowd does. So let's talk about Lemon for a second. The story with Lemon is that essentially somebody was, shopping or doing something, and they left their dog in their car, and somebody broke into the car and stole the dog, okay? And this is an example of, something that I like to relate to Peanut and Harambe, where there could be a viral movement around this concept, okay? Because right now in the, broader world, there is this, movement going around where people are boycotting Tesla and Elon Musk specifically. And I think that this could be, something that might have the potential to take off because it could be talked about a lot more in the future, right? That is what I want you to take away from this token. Now, one thing that I do want to make very clear is that part of the reason why, Peanut specifically took off so viciously is because it got national exposure, and it even got mentioned, I'm pretty sure, by Donald Trump, and I'm pretty sure Musk may have, retweeted something regarding Peanut and how the government should keep their hands off of people's property, etc. And I low key think that Lemon could be something that Elon Musk might talk about or, tweet in the future, which would propel this token to the 30 million range and be a clean 6x from here. So that is just, another example of like, this is how you really need to think of things in the meme coin space and take calculated risk based on if you think that, something can get national exposure or be viral enough to, capture the attention of a lot of people. Okay, and the reason why we just went over these examples is, again, to show you guys that if you want to succeed in the meme coin space, you really need to understand what is working and try to apply those principles to newer coins that are launching, okay? So if I were you guys and I was a beginner in this space, I would just do a little bit of brief research, and I have a video about how I specifically do research on my channel. And what you really should do is try to understand what is making these high market cap tokens successful and try to spot that in the newer launches that come out. Okay, and speaking of the newer launches, the newer tokens that are coming out, let's look at this Gork token and break it down and talk about why this token's at 20 million in less than an hour and why people are buying it right now. And just a quick side note, we love to see this for the space because we haven't seen a ton of 0 to 20 million runners like this, and especially in this short period of time. This really reinvigorates the rest of the space, brings a lot of new ideas to people who want to, develop their own tokens. And this is what brings a lot of new liquidity on chain, which, inevitably makes all of these tokens perform better, okay? A rising tide lifts all ships. That's what I like to say with the meme coin space. So whenever we see a big runner like this or like Housecoin, that usually is a good sign that there might be some good opportunity in the coming weeks or potentially months. So we love to see this. Okay, so now let's break this token down and actually talk about why this is going so parabolic in such a short period of time. All right, so I'm sure if you have an X account, you are familiar with Gork, which is the AI that is native to the X platform. And basically why this token is doing so well, from what I can tell so far, is that this token is simply just making fun of Gork. And, these are the types of narratives that actually do well in the crypto space. Okay, so it looks like Gork is literally just a shit posting AI that's making fun of Gork, okay? But what's interesting is that this guy, Alex Chen, who I don't know if he's actually affiliated with XAI. I don't know what the rules are to put one of these, little icons in your bio is, but, he initially tweeted at this thing, and now a ton of people are tweeting at it, and it replies in an instant. So, we've seen a lot of these types of AI bots in the past. This one probably has, more viral potential simply because it's making fun of Gork, which is, very well known and used by a ton of people currently. And if you didn't already know this by now, meme coins are literally vehicles of speculation. And, whenever there's somebody who potentially might be involved with a big organization that is, attempting to promote or just simply tweeting at one of these parody type bots or anything of those sorts, that is when you can really just spark a ton of virality right off the bat. And that is why this thing right now is going so parabolic. People are speculating that this might have some affiliation with actual Gork. Now, personally, I don't think that's the case. I think that this is probably just, something for people to bid on and, something that's attractive to the majority of the meme coin space. But regardless, these are the types of narratives, again, that do well in the meme coin space. A lot of people have different opinions on what actually makes a meme coin successful. In my opinion, it's as simple as humor, okay? And the quicker that you understand that, the quicker, in my opinion, you can start to actually make better decisions as to the tokens that you're buying. And this might be, a really good example of one that could potentially slow grind up to the 50 mil range and, make a lot of people a lot of money. Now, there isn't a ton of actual information on this Gork token yet, so I'm assuming that this is 99% speculation and that this token will probably dip back down to the 10 million or maybe even 5 million range within the next 24 hours before it continues up, if it continues up. But obviously we will see as, time reveals itself over the next day. Now, would I say that this is a good buy? Absolutely not. So one thing that you really need to understand in the meme coin space is that you should never top last, which basically means don't buy the token when it's at its absolute peak, right? These things dip and they are extremely volatile, right? Like I just said, I think that this token will probably settle back down at around the 10 million range. And if you want to buy it then, That's a decision you need to make, but for now, I don't recommend it. But the good news for everybody watching this right now is that, the space right now is heating up very fast again, and that means that there are going to be a lot of opportunities, especially in my opinion, on these higher market cap tokens. So if you are a beginner, try to find value in these higher market cap tokens for now. Get really good at trading these higher market cap tokens before you try to spot the next big narrative runners. And you guys will probably have a lot more success than the people who are just aping into 100 tokens every day. But all right, I'm going to wrap up the video here because I want to keep things digestible and actually entertaining for you guys to watch. So if you guys want to actually join a community of people who do this on a daily basis, hop into my Discord. It's 100% free and it always will be. I will see you guys in the next video and also in the Discord. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.